I'm taking a $50 grocery haul and I'm turning that into 5 different dinner recipes that each serve 4 people, so 20 servings of healthy meals. This is the first recipe of the week. It's gonna be a tomato basil chicken meatball with a creamy tomato rice. So this video is gonna show you all the steps of how to make it. If you're looking for the grocery list that I used and all the information about the ingredients, substitutions, what to prep beforehand, all of that is in the previous video, so head there if you haven't seen that yet. Ingredients that we're using today for this recipe are chicken broth, you can also use veggie broth, coconut milk from the can. We're using a pound of ground chicken, half of a jar of sun-dried tomatoes, an 8-ounce jar, a few tablespoons of tomato paste, onion, garlic, rice. I'm using basmati rice, fresh basil, and then for pantry staples that we're gonna be using, you're gonna need olive oil, salt, pepper, red pepper flakes, you can leave them out if you don't like, garlic powder, and dried oregano. We're gonna be using the oven and the stovetop for this recipe. The 2 main cooking tools you're gonna need are a sheet pan. This is a medium-sized sheet pan, you don't need anything too big, and then a deep skillet with a lid. I'm using the stainless steel one. You can use non-stick, whatever you have. First thing we're gonna do is just get everything prepped so it's ready to go onto the pan or into the mix that we're using. So I'm going to dice half of this yellow onion. I'm gonna mince up a few garlic cloves. I'm gonna chop this basil into small pieces. And then I'm also gonna take out about half of the sun-dried tomatoes from here and chop them into small pieces. So with that little bit of prep done, we're ready to start making the meal, and it's gonna come together pretty quickly. It's a very simple meal. The only complicated part about it, if you can call it complicated, is that some part of it will go in the oven and then some part will go on the stovetop. So the part that's gonna go in the oven is the chicken meatballs. We're gonna make the mix right now, and it's super simple. First, we're gonna do the pound of ground chicken. We're gonna season it with a mix of salt, black pepper, garlic powder, and dried oregano. We're gonna add the chopped sun-dried tomatoes. This is 1/2 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. And then 2/3 cup of fresh chopped basil. So this is the mix, and then I'm just gonna use a rubber spatula to mix it all up into a uniform meatball mixture. Now that we have our meatball mix, I'm gonna scoop them into meatballs using this little scoop. And now with a little bit of oil on my hands, I'm just gonna roll them into balls just like this. Now that I have the meatballs prepped, I'm preheating the oven to 400 so these can bake when it's heated, and we're gonna get started on the rice. Okay, I just heated my oil in the skillet, and then I'm adding the half yellow onion that I diced. Just gonna saute this till it gets translucent. Okay, now I'm adding in the minced garlic. And you just wanna kind of stir this constantly because you don't want the garlic to burn. And I'm also adding in a mix of those same seasonings, salt, black pepper, dried oregano, and a little bit of red pepper flakes. I'm just gonna keep mixing until it gets aromatic, just a few minutes. And now I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of this tomato paste. I'm just gonna stir this in. And you wanna just incorporate all of the tomato paste into the onion and the garlic and all those spices. And while that's cooking down, my oven is preheated, so I'm adding the meatballs to the oven. I'm gonna start it at 14 minutes. Now that the tomato paste has cooked down a little bit and the spices are aromatic, I'm adding in a cup of rinsed rice. And just mixing that into everything so the rice gets coated. Now we've got a cup of chicken broth, a cup of water, a half cup of coconut milk, and we just stir to combine. So now that the rice has been brought to a little bit of a simmer, I'm turning the heat down to medium-low, and then I'm gonna cover it and let the rice fully cook for about 15 minutes, and I'm gonna stir halfway through. Okay, I just took the meatballs out of the oven. It ended up being 15 to 16 minutes, and they look really good. The rice is just about done cooking, just has a couple of minutes, so everything's timing up perfectly, and then we're gonna add the meatballs to the rice. It's been 15 minutes, let me check on this. I did stir it halfway through, and it's looking just about done. Now we're gonna put all the little meatballs right on top. And the last step is we're just gonna top it with some basil. Let's get this plated up. Okay, everything's done. I'm ready to eat. I'm so hungry, so I'm so excited. And I just wanted to note a few things about the rice specifically. One, I added in the recipe notes that if you needed to add a little bit of extra water when you get to the step where you add the liquid, just to cover everything and make sure the rice can get fully cooked in there, you can do that. So I have a note for that. And then also, depending on what kind of stove you have, like I have an electric stove, but if you have a gas stove, they can run a little bit hotter when the rice is cooking, so adjust as needed and make sure that you're stirring it throughout while it's cooking, especially if you have a gas stove, so the rice doesn't stick to the bottom. All right, well, let's dig in. It's so good. The meatball with the sun-dried tomato and the basil in there makes it so flavorful. The rice is the perfect complement. This is honestly gonna be on my dinner rotation because everything just comes together so perfectly, and I just love sun-dried tomatoes. A link to this full recipe will be in the caption of this video, so go grab it there. As a reminder, the grocery list is in the previous video. I'll link to that in the description of this video as well. Subscribe to my Substack where I'm gonna send out a recap of the grocery list and all the recipes so you can grab it in one spot. And make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube, of course. Tomorrow I'm gonna post recipe number 2 and keep cooking along with me. Bye for now.